In this demonstration, I'm going to show you the first part of how we make this beautiful sort of recipe book. This was an idea from Jane Smith, who said that she thought the kitchen tools would make the most amazing sort of journal or recipe book. And what she actually challenged me on, she said, I bet you're like me and have a drawer full of recipes and bits you've clipped from magazines you've never used. And this is some of my collection. I pulled these out of the drawer. Some of these go back 20 years, actually even longer, to be honest. Oh, the lemon drizzle cake, that's lovely. There's loads of bits, and it really is difficult to find your recipes. And I thought, what a great idea to do a booklet, and also a great way to store your recipes, and makes a really good gift. And what I've also done is, on the front here, you can see, we've actually made some little kitchen gadget fridge magnets. So these have been done and made as fridge magnets. I've used a little glue dot on the back, and I'll be showing you these in the next demo. And what I need for the front of my book is an 8x8 square. So using a panel or piece that cuts me only 6x6 wouldn't actually fit. So I'm just going to pop my card in, and I'm using a piece of craft card. And then I will take my kitchen tool stamp, which is A6 size. So what I could do is to stamp that 1, 2, 3, 4. And that would give me a nice pattern, but it would look very repetitive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by putting it into the corner to do one side. So this is not the way you would do it to cut, it would be the other way. And I'm going to ink and stamp this with VersaFine. So I'm using VersaFine, and I'm using, once again, I'm using the vintage sepia. So I'm stamping the whole thing wholesale. Press it down, have a look, and you'll see I've got corners. Well, I don't want corners if I want a whole sheet. So I'm going to show you how to miss those out. So I'm going to turn the card over, and there's two ways to do this. The first way, we bring in a little bit of low-tack tape, and I just make sure that there's no residual ink on the corners of the stamp. I pop the low-tack tape, you can use masking tape for this, over the two corners that you don't want to stamp. And we then ink the stamp as normal. So we just ink it as we would normally do, just like that. I would then take a pair of tweezers, or you can use your hand, and just remove those two pieces of tape. Pop those in the bin, and when I turn this over to stamp, there's no ink on those corners, so I won't get any. So if you actually wanted to miss one of the tools out, to leave an area to put some writing or some journaling, you could actually just mask off that tool with your tape, ink over, and then remove it. But if you can see there, no corners. It's as if they didn't exist. So I'm now going to rotate my card 90 degrees, and I'm just going to pull it out slightly, check my stamp, and make sure, there we go, perfect, that they're not matching. And I'll show you the second way to do this. So what I'm going to do is just be very, very careful. And if you can see, the stamp, the corners are exactly triangles. So if I take my ink pad, which is square, up to there, but don't cover it, then I can miss it out. So you do have to be a little bit careful on this. I would suggest, until you're used to it, using a little bit of low-tack tape or a little bit of masking tape just to mask off those corner pieces. But you can see there, I've got that design beautifully rotated, and it really has a look to me of a sort of 1950s wallpaper or pattern that you don't get on china. So what I can do is I'm going to bring in my stamp, and this time I'm going to go this way up, and I'm going to fill in this little bit here. So here I've got a piece that I've already stamped through, and I've actually cut this down to size to fit the front of my journal. So I've got an old journal here that I'm going to use, and I got some mess on it, so I thought it's really nice to cover it. So I'm simply going to take one of the Eyes Ink dye inks. I'm going to take T, which is very similar to the sort of VersaFine vintage sepia look, and I'm just going to age around the edges, just using a finger dauber and just going round all of the edges, smoothing it over. Now you don't want to be too careful on this, because this is ideally for the kitchen. You know, this is going to get splashes and things on it, if you're anything like me, all the recipes that you've got have got splashes and bits of things stuck all over them anyway. So you want it to look a little bit aged and vintage, which is what we're going for. So I'm just simply going to cover that. So you can see there, I've got that coloured, and I'm going to then go in and to some of the pieces, and I'm just going to sort of colour over them a little bit. So the breadboard there, I think he needs to be a little bit darker. And then we've got, the salt and pepper. So I'm going to go over those the same. And you could use your alcohol pens, you could use watercolour pencils, you could use anything the rolling pin wants some. You could really spend a long time colouring this, shading this, but just making it look very different. It's got a real beautiful look to it. So I'm simply going to glue that straight onto the front of my journal. So we'll take here and get my glue. Make sure I should have got it running first every time. So I'm just going to use some glue around that, and we're going to glue that on. And this is going on the front of a book, so I'm putting a little bit more glue than I would normally do. And you see it already starts to look like a beautiful recipe book, sort of an old-fashioned, almost Victorian recipe book to it. So we're going to need to have some of the actual pieces cut. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and stamped as before the pieces in the kitchen set. And what I want to do then is to cut these out. And this shows you how well the die works. So in the first stamping, we missed out the corners. This time, we've stamped the corners because they're very important. They are what tell us where to lay the die down. So the die lays on top of those. And all we do is match corner to corner. So where the corner is missing on the die, we match to see the corners, and you can see through to make sure that the images are in the right place. We simply tape that down, and I'll run that through my die cutting machine. So I've run that through the die cutting machine, and as you can see, all of the pieces really simply and easily pop out. Just take our die off and you've got then your piece. You could use that as a stencil. So I've got all of the pieces then of these kitchen tools all cut out perfectly. So the salt and the pepper and the knives. And again, there are more videos on the YouTube channel showing you exactly how to do this, and on Hochanda Rewind and Catch Up, showing you how to do different ideas with this. So all I want to do is to start to put this together. So what I've done is, out of a little bit of self-adhesive cork I've got, I think this was an old tile actually, I've cut one of the panels from the bridge card set, which just gives me the perfect section there. I'm going to bring in my ink again, and I'm just going to take my tools and give them a little flick round, and then I'm just going to pop some of the tools on top. So just shading a little bit of the side. And you can add anything you want to. There's all sorts. You can add pictures that have been cut from magazines or torn out or anything else. But I just wanted to give you the basic idea. So a little bit of ink on there. Yeah, let's put those on. And then I would put here. Now, I cannot, for the life of me, spell recipe. Not out of the top of my head. I am very, very bad at it. So I'm going to write on it. John's Cook book. You could personalize that for whoever it's for. And what I've done here is I've just used a little bit of an old drinks can. Don't want to turn it over too much because I don't want you to see what's advertised, whatever drink it is I've been drinking recently. So I've cut this using one of the tag dies that we've got on the show, just in a little bit of aluminium. So it's in from the drinks can. Added a little bit of string on there. I'm going to add, I think we're going to add the, I can't think of the name of it, the rolling pin. Honestly, terrible. A little bit of ink round, just to secure that on. Let's get the glue in the right place, shall we? There we go. And what I've done with this is, I've cut out some more of the magnets. A little bit more glue needed there. So I've cut out some more of the magnets, which I'll show you in the next demo, and I've just stuck those on with some little tabs onto the front so that I've got that little gift, but I've also got those little fridge magnets to use. So in the next demonstration, I'll be showing you how we make the fridge magnets from them.